Bright Cutie. Every student matters.
Hello students. Now let's talk about our next topic here, that is the beginning, as in the 1905 revolution. Now students, before this we have talked about the Russian people, right? We understood a lot of points there. Here let us finally talk about the first revolution that broke out in the year 1905. So let's go back a year before here. Let's talk about 1904. So the situation in 1904 here in Russia was quite bad. Why? Because Russia was an autocracy, right? And who was the ruler here? Who was the Tsar? If I ask you the name, can you tell me? Yes, you can definitely say that it was Tsar Nicholas II. Okay? So, here we see that initially Russia was an autocratic. The ultimate authority was in the hands of Nicholas II. But people here as well were quite agitated with the working conditions, be it the workers, be it the peasants and so on, right? The common people here. Therefore, all these different organizations and peasants and workers. Now, when we are talking about these people, they are the liberals, social democrats, socialist revolutionaries who were fighting for the rights of peasants. So all these people, they had a common demand. Now what was that demand? They demanded for a constitution. Now do you remember something here? Are you trying to recall something here when we read about the French Revolution? Yes, in that as well, we saw that people were demanding for a new constitution. They drafted a new constitution. Who were these people? The National Assembly. Right? So can you see the similarity here? In Russia as well, people now were demanding a constitution. They wanted to end this autocratic rule of the Tsar. That ultimate authority or the supreme authority here is under the hands of Tsar and it was being misused, right? Now this is the image from the Bloody Sunday or the event that we are going to learn right now. Okay? Now here in 1904, like I told you, there was increase in the prices. So what is happening here? Price rise. So price rise of all the essential goods. So with the increase in prices of all the essential goods that were needed by the people, we see that the real wages, it declined by 20%. Now here the term real wages, what does this mean? It means that, let me erase this for you. When we are talking about real wages, it means that the quantity of goods, the actual quantity of goods that the wages, the money that can, the wages that can actually, the term here important is actually buy. So the real wages that we see here has declined by 20%. Why? Because there was price rise here in Russia of all the essential goods. Now it is hampering whom, students? In simple terms, it was hampering the common people, the workers there who were not earning enough money, they were not given enough wages as per their working hours, and the peasants who were quite poor, the landless laborers. So these people, they agitated against whom? Against the king. Now here also we are seeing that the membership of the Workers' Association, it rose, right? Apart from that, there was something that happened in the year 1904 and after that, that led to this 1905 revolution. So, 4 members of the Assembly of Russian Workers were dismissed, wherein Putilov Iron Works. So, these 4 members of this assembly of Russian workers, they were dismissed. Now this agitated all the other workers when they heard of this news. So they called for some action, right? And as a result of it, what happened? Around 1,10,000 workers, they marched in St. Petersburg. They went in on strike, right? Around 1,10,000 people. Now imagine at that particular time, when we are talking about the 1905 period, this is a good number, students. Now 1,10,000 people in unity, they marched towards the Winter Palace. They went on strike in St. Petersburg, right? And apart from that, there were some main demands of all these workers who went on strike. Now, what was the demand here? So, they demanded for the reduction of in the working hours. Now, they wanted that they should work for 8 hours. Now, before this, they were working for 11 hours or more than that. Now, imagine a person who is working for 11 hours continuously with a short break. Would he be able to do a lot of work? Would he be able to be a productive person there in his work? Definitely not. So, therefore, they wanted reduction in the working hours and also increase the wages. So, these were the two main demands of the workers' organization here. Also, we are seeing that the membership of the workers' associations, that they were rising. Now, this created a problem here. Now, let's have a look in the map here. St. Petersburg, this is Russia, and St. Petersburg, one of the most important cities apart from Moscow. St. Petersburg, it was an important city in Russia during this period, right? So, this is an image here showing how these workers, they marched towards the Winter Palace where the king was residing. Now, these workers, they were quite agitated. They had some demands that they wanted the king to fulfill their demands, right? And this procession of workers, it was led by Father Gapin. Now, Father Gapin here, he was later on found to be the agent of monarch or police here, let's say working under the monarch only. So, agent of monarch, right? So, this man here, Father Gapin, but he was leading the procession of workers and they were attacked by the police at Winter Palace. Now, we see that in St. Petersburg here, people, they went on strike, then they marched towards the Winter Palace. As you can see, people going with flags here. The guards are standing here, the imperial guards are standing, right? They are trying to stop the group here, the masses here. But when they saw that people are quite agitated, the workers are quite agitated, definitely if 1,10,000 people, they went on strike and now they are marching towards the Winter Palace and they are going to present the petition to the king, definitely the guard, they were taking action, right? So, they were attacked by the police, the guards that were protecting the Winter Palace there. So, eventually what happened? This took place on January 22nd, 1905, which was a Sunday. So, it was on a Sunday morning that this happened here, students, and therefore, we call it as Bloody Sunday, right? The name Bloody Sunday, why? Because it happened on Sunday and many people were wounded and many people were killed in this revolution, in this whole event here, right? And all these set of events, they were now known as the 1905 revolution. Why? Because here the story is again not ending. Students, after listening to this, everyone got agitated, right? And therefore, there were strikes all over the place. Universities were closed down and there was a demand for constituent assembly. Something that we are seeing similar to that of French Revolution here. So, here also people are demanding for constitution, constituent assembly, though the scenarios are different. Here the people, they were demanding something else in between, before, right? So, in French Revolution, we had a different set of story, but demand for the constitution, demand for constituent assembly is same here, right? So finally what happened? Now, being pressurized by these people, the common people, Tsar, he had to accept that, and he allowed the creation of an elected consultative parliament or Duma. So the parliament here in Russia was known as Duma. Since people were demanding for constitution, they were demanding for constituent assembly. So this was a semi-elected representative group. So here what are we seeing? We see that it was an elected consultative parliament. Now why are we giving this term consultative here? Because we saw that in Duma, the members, they did not have all the authority there. Now here the Tsar, he could consult the members of the Duma, right? So it was semi-elected representative here, there in Russia, right? Now, trade unions and committees, they were declared illegal. All these trade unions, committees, after they went on and they were trying to show the petition, present the petition in front of the king, they were, after this whole 1905 revolution, they were seen or declared as illegal. They were not allowed to form any organization. They were not allowed to form any protest. They were not allowed to challenge the authority of the king. Now, while the Duma was formed, what are we seeing here? Tsar, he dismissed the first Duma within 75 days. Though he was ready to form the Duma, here we see that he had the power to dismiss the Duma, the parliament here, and it was dismissed within 75 days. Now, he then re-elected the second Duma in 3 months. Now, why was he doing this? Why was he dismissing the first Duma, then again the second Duma was re-elected? Because he did not want anyone to challenge his authority. So this was the main reason. We know, students, that if a constitution has been made there, so the government there would be constitutional monarchy. The powers of the government would be limited by the constitution. So he did not want anyone to challenge his authority, his power. Therefore, he was trying to suspend the Duma, dismiss the Duma, re-electing the Duma, and overall, he was changing the voting laws. And then we see that in third Duma, mostly conservatives were included. And the liberals, the social democrats, all these people were outcasted. Now, why were conservatives included in the third Duma? Because these conservatives, they were always in favor of monarchy. They wanted to establish or restore every time. The basic ideology here of conservatives is to restore the monarchy, right? Or to believe in the oldest form of order here, of the monarch. Therefore, the conservatives were included in the third Duma so that they could not challenge the authority of the king there, right? So this is how what came after 1905 revolution, coming up of Duma, but again, the king, he had his powers here. Now, army and navy were also involved in protests against the killing of innocent workers and their family members. Yes, students, involvement of army and navy is also quite important here. Sailors of battleship Potemkin, they also joined the revolutionaries. A new organization was formed known as the Soviet of Workers. Peasants also formed their Soviet. Now here you are seeing this term, that is Soviet. Here we are seeing this term Soviet. Now what do we understand by Soviet? Now if we say in literal terms here, in general terms, it means that we are talking about any political organization. Any political organization, let me correct the spelling here. Any political organization or government body. Government bodies in Russia, right? When we are talking about Soviet, right? Soviet Union. Or we can say that council, right? Council representing workers and peasants in the Russian Revolution, right? So here we see that there is Council of Workers, Council of Peasants that were formed after the 1905 revolution. All these workers organizations, they were declared illegal. They were not allowed to take out or carry out any protest or anything sort of that, right? So here we have understood about the 1905 revolution. Now what was a Soviet? How are you going to answer that? I just told you right now. A council representing group of workers or peasants in Russian Revolution, right? You can also say that in literal terms it means the political organization or government body representing in Russia. This is how you have to answer this question. The next question is, discuss the role of Tsar in the peasant revolt of 1905. Right here students, so when we are talking about the role of Tsar, the peasants, the workers who moved on to revolt here, we see that the Tsar, firstly talk about when did this come. So the assembly of workers, they were dismissed, people rose, went on strike, right? 1,10,000 people, workers, they went on strike in St. Petersburg, right? And then talk about how these workers and peasants, they, under the leadership of whom? I'm just giving you the keywords here. Under the leadership of Father Gapin, they marched towards the Winter Palace, and how under the order of the king, the royal guards, the imperial guards, they attacked, or the police, they attacked on these people, the workers and the peasants, right? Now, these people, they went on strike. Students, universities were closed down. Students also went on strike. Peasants they went on strike. The workers, they went on strike, right? And now, under this pressure, the government, the Tsar, he had to form Duma, semi-elected, the parliament or the consultative, the elected consultative parliament, that was known as Duma, right? So the first Duma, it was suspended in 75 days. The second Duma was re-elected in 3 months. And when we are talking about the third Duma, we see that the voting laws were changed, and in third Duma, mostly there were the conservatives, right? So this is how we can answer the role of Tsar in the peasant movement or the peasant revolt. Now, the next question here is, describe the main features of the revolution of 1905. Now, how are you going to answer this question? Yes, whatever I have discussed here, you have to write all those points here, students. Now, I am just giving you the keywords as in how you are going to form the answer. Here, talk about the year 1904, that was catastrophic for people. So, with the rise in price, we see that there was reduction in real wages, right? 20% reduction, and this hampered people a lot. This affected the people a lot. Again, we see that group of assembly of 4 workers here, of the Russian workers group here, they were dismissed. This agitated the workers' organization and they called for an action, and as a result of this, 1,10,000 workers, they went on strike where? In St. Petersburg. After that, what happened? Under the leadership of Father Gapin, all these workers, peasants, they went on to march towards the Winter Palace, where they were attacked by the police who were guarding the Winter Palace. And here what are we seeing? We see that this event was now known as Bloody Sunday. Why? Because it took place on 22nd January, that was a Sunday, and many people were wounded and killed in this event. That is why we call it as Bloody Sunday. And these set of series of events, they were collectively now called as the Revolution of 1905, because afterwards we see that protests took place everywhere. Students, they went on strike, universities were closed down, middle class people, they went on strike, they came on roads, they challenged the government, and they were demanding for a constituent assembly. So now what happened later on? Here the Tsar, he was pressurized in order to accept the demands of people, right? So when we are talking about the demands of people, it means that he formed Duma, that is elected consultative parliament, consisting of people here, but he did not want anyone to challenge his authority. So the first Duma was suspended after 75 days. The second Duma was re-elected in 3 months, that is after 90 days here. And when we are talking about the third Duma here, in third Duma we see that the membership was mainly or mostly of the conservatives, right? So this is how the whole revolution, it took place in the year 1905. So these are some of the major points that you have to mention in your answer. Thank you.